You're the one who checks on her, aren't you? The one who notices when she's quiet, when she's overwhelmed, when she's not okay. You carry her storms. You show up, even when your own world feels like it's falling apart. But deep down, tell me something. When was the last time someone asked if you were okay? Not just out of politeness, but because they saw your silence and heard the weight behind it. Because sometimes love doesn't end in shouting or betrayal. Sometimes it just fades quietly, and you're left lying next to someone who doesn't even see you're drowning. You're always there for her, but why are you so alone? If this feels familiar, I want you to stay, because this space, this moment, it's not for judgment. It's for the ones who give everything and end up empty. You're not crazy, you're not needy, and you're not alone in this pain. Let's talk about it, really talk. Because if no one else has said it, you deserve to be seen too. You didn't sign up to be a ghost. You didn't expect to vanish slowly while staying right there in the same bed, in the same house, under the same roof. But that's what it feels like, doesn't it? You wake up and your day starts with her. You make the coffee, pick up her meds, fix what's broken, and carry the weight so she doesn't have to. You listen, even when she doesn't speak. You protect her heart, even when yours is bruised. You show up at her storms every single time. But when the storm is yours, who shows up for you? It's not that she's cruel. It's not that she means to hurt you. But silence can win too. Neglect doesn't have to scream. Sometimes it's just the way she looks past you now. The way she no longer asks how your day really was. The way your stories hang in the air unanswered while she scrolls. And yet, you still love her. You still defend her when others complain. You still tell yourself she's just tired. She has a lot on her mind. But when was the last time you had space to be tired? When was the last time someone gave you a soft place to land? You used to laugh, remember? There was a time she looked at you like you mattered, like you were seen. Now, you're not sure who you are anymore. Not just in a marriage, but as a man. You've been the steady one, the protector, the giver. But what happens when that becomes your entire identity? Who are you when no one needs anything from you? When the room is quiet and your soul is even quieter? And brother, I see it, the way you shrink in silence. The way you swallow emotions so she doesn't feel guilty. The way you convince yourself, it's fine. I'm just overthinking it. But what if you're not? What if this ache is the evidence that you've been starving for connection for years? You're not selfish for wanting to feel loved. You're not weak for needing to be seen. And you're not dramatic for noticing what's missing. Because this isn't about grand gestures. This is about those small, invisible things that quietly tell you you don't matter anymore. The unanswered texts, the half-hearted touch, the "I'm fine" when you know she's already checked out emotionally. And still you stay. You love her through it. But no one asks, how much of yourself have you had to leave behind just to keep this going? Brother, you're not alone in this silence. And this is where the story starts to shift. At first, it was subtle, almost unnoticeable. Not a fight, not an insult, just a shift. You'd speak, and she'd nod, but her eyes were somewhere else. You'd try to connect, and she'd pull away, not out of anger, but detachment. No screaming, no slamming doors, just a slow, quiet vanishing. And that's what makes it so hard to explain, isn't it? Because how do you describe the feeling of being abandoned by someone who still sleeps beside you? You're not crazy. You didn't imagine the way your love used to feel like home. The way you once felt chosen, wanted, cherished. But now, you feel like the furniture in the room. Useful, present, reliable, but unseen. You hold space for her breakdowns. You fix what breaks, calm the chaos, fill the silence. And slowly, you become nothing but the silence. That's the part no one talks about. How emotional neglect doesn't leave bruises, but it breaks you anyway. You start to wonder, is it me? Am I too needy? Am I expecting too much? And that's how the spiral begins. You question your worth. You water yourself down. You shrink in quiet corners of the house, just to avoid the pain of being overlooked again. Being the strong one, it becomes your prison. Because no one checks on the guy who has it all together. No one thinks to ask how you're holding up, because you always say, I'm fine. But you're not fine. You're empty. And the worst part? You feel guilty for even feeling this way. Because she's not cruel. She's just distant. And part of you still loves her deeply. Even as you mourn the version of her that used to see you, you start to forget who you are. You used to have dreams, didn't you? A passion, a purpose, a sense of self. But now, your identity is stitched into sacrifice. Your happiness is always the last thing on the list. And slowly, you start disappearing from yourself. Brother, I've watched men like you walk into rooms and smile like nothing's wrong, hold families together like it's their job, and break silently behind closed doors. And if that's you, I need you to hear this. This pain is real. This emptiness is real. And you're not weak for feeling it. This isn't in your head. This is what happens when a man's heart gets neglected for too long. So many men walk this path silently because they were raised to endure, not to express, taught to provide, not to feel. But beneath the surface, there's a storm, one that whispers late at night. How did I get here? Does she even love me anymore? Will I ever feel alive again? And brother, that storm? It deserves to be heard. How long can you pour from a cup that no one ever refills? How long can you be the steady hands while your own are shaking in the dark? You give and give and give until one day you sit alone in your car, parked in the driveway, and you can't go inside. Not because she's angry, but because you've become invisible in your own home. And maybe tonight, like so many other nights, you'll cry with the volume down, head resting on the steering wheel, wondering, what happened to me? How did I become the ghost in my own story? There's no affair, no betrayal, no storm, just a slow starvation of the soul. A man unraveling, not for violence, but from silence. And maybe you've told yourself this is normal, that you're just tired, that this is how marriage feels after a few years. But brother, this is not what love is supposed to look like. You don't feel alive anymore. You feel like a placeholder, a provider, a protector. But who's protecting you? Who's holding you when your chest is too tight to speak? Who even notices when you disappear emotionally? And in that silence, that moment where everything feels too loud and too empty at once, you ask the question that most men are too afraid to say out loud. What if I'm not okay? And maybe you're not. Maybe you're numb. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you've lost parts of yourself you can't even name anymore. But here's the truth. You are not alone. And this version of you, the man whose heart still beats, even through neglect, he deserves to be seen. He deserves healing. He deserves to feel like a man again, not just a role, not just a wallet, not just a peacekeeper. This pain is valid. This loneliness is real. And it's not your fault. But here's the question I need you to sit with now. What are you going to do with this pain? Will you bury it deeper? Or will you let it lead you back home? To yourself? You've held back tears in the shower, sat in the car a little longer just to breathe. Not because anything exploded, but because everything slowly eroded. You told yourself, she's just tired, maybe I'm overthinking, but deep down you felt it. That sinking ache in your chest that whispered, this isn't what love is supposed to feel like. And that's when the question hit, is this all I am now? Just the background noise in her life. Now let's shift, but brother, before you collapse under the weight of being unseen, I want you to know something. You're not weak for needing more. You're not selfish for wanting to feel alive again. You're not broken. You're not overreacting. And no, you're not too sensitive. You're human, a man with emotions, with needs, with a heart that's been trying to stay strong for too long. Emotional neglect isn't the absence of love. It's the absence of being seen. It's not that she doesn't care. It's that somewhere along the way, you stopped being felt. You became the reliable one, the strong one, the he'll be fine one, and you were until you weren't. The worst part? You probably learned to be this way a long time ago. Maybe as a kid, you were taught not to make noise when hurting. Maybe love always came with conditions. Maybe your worth was measured in how useful, quiet, or selfless you could be. So when your needs go unmet now, you don't complain, you perform. You smile, you protect, you suppress. Because somewhere deep inside, you were trained to believe, my needs are too much. My emotions are a burden. Being good means being invisible. But brother, that's not love. Love doesn't ask you to disappear. Love doesn't ask you to self-destruct in silence. And no, you're not asking for too much. You're just asking for the bare minimum. To be seen, to be heard, to be emotionally held. And here's the part no one tells you. Emotional neglect isn't always loud, but the damage runs deep. It shapes your sense of identity. It steals your joy slowly, like a leak in the roof you never noticed, until the ceiling collapses. But you're here now, awake, aware. And that means you can choose something different. You can begin the journey back to yourself. Maybe no one ever taught you this, but hear me now, brother. You can love her deeply without disappearing in the process. You don't have to set yourself on fire just to keep someone else warm. It's okay to want more than just being useful. It's okay to say, I miss being seen. You've been strong for so long, but strength isn't silence. It's not the ability to endure being invisible. It's the courage to whisper, I matter too. You don't need to explode to reclaim your voice. Sometimes healing begins in the quietest rebellions. A conversation you've been avoiding, a journal entry, a boundary softly placed, a truth spoken out loud, maybe for the first time. And if no one's ever said this to you, let me say it now. You deserve more than emotional survival. You deserve connection. You deserve peace. Not just as a husband, not just as a provider, but as a man with a heart that still beats and hopes to be held. And maybe this is where it begins. Not with grand ultimatums, not with shouting or slamming doors, but with one quiet truth whispered into the silence. That I exist, I feel, I matter, because somewhere beneath the numbness, your heart has always known. This wasn't love if it cost you your reflection. So take this as a small beginning, a moment of stillness where you hear yourself again. If this spoke to something you couldn't name until now, don't carry it alone anymore. Drop your story in the comments, even if it's just one line, even if your voice shakes. Here, there's no judgment, only healing. Subscribe if you're tired of surface-level advice. This space, it's built for the real ones, for the quiet warriors, for the men who feel everything deeply and stay silent no more. Let's build a place where your silent pain finds its voice. You were never invisible here.